All right, what's up, everybody? It's Bally at Brand. We got a second stream for the day. Me and Gerardo kind of got cut off a little bit shortly before Hexologist his live stream. So there's a couple of things that I just wanted to cover before I ended the stream for the day, right? So a lot of us were looking at the price last week, and we can see that we're down just maybe about 6% from last weekend. A week ago from when I was live streaming. I want to cover the actual gas price themselves, right? The gas prices are low, and right now you can do HEX.com, you can do app.oneinch.io, I think. So I just want to go over a couple of things real quick before we end the live stream. Yeah, exactly. Identity block, double shot at brand. Yeah, there's a few things. So I got to do about a 30-minute monologue before me and Gerardo streamed. And shout out to Gerardo again for coming on the show and debuting on my channel. But there's a couple of things I want to cover, right? So the actual Bitcoin price itself, it's under 50,000. Richard Hart has kind of talked about that Bitcoin might be topping out. And so there's a couple of things that I want to cover in that regard that might be topping signals or might be just a leg down currently, but it's nonetheless important to kind of go over. So if you have any stakes that were expensive to end previously, you can end them now and they're at a cheaper cost. So the gas itself is at a really good rate right now compared to what we've seen before. So maybe it's $20 to do a ETHEX.com swap as opposed to a $80 or $90. So yeah, shout out to you, Identity Block. Children of the Grave says Charizard. That's a good RG3 reference and quote. Instead of Charizard, he pronounces it Cherryzard. But not being a Papa B too much, we'll just let that one go for now. All right, so let me just share the screen real quick. We'll share the screen. We'll go to Richard Hart, his Twitter. And we'll just go to tweets and replies and start scrolling down. So you can see Eric Weinstein's talking about Bitcoin. And Richard says, I know a pretty cool coin or two as well. So he's talking about Ethereum and HEX as opposed to just Bitcoin that Eric Weinstein mentions about 40 minutes ago. Why not give him a follow? So Richard kind of mentions this, right? He talks about, Anthony Pompliano, he's got 750,000 followers, and Richard has 66,000. Well, Richard talks about punching above your weight. And I'm not saying that Anthony Pompliano is more smarter than Richard at all. I'm not saying that at all. But with the arbitrary numbers of followers, Richard talks about ignoring the trolls that maybe have less followers than, say, Richard or yourself, and kind of punching above, say, Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, or any person that has more followers than, say, the person that you're trying to promote. That then punches above the weight class. And when you're cross-promoting, you definitely want to be doing such things. Yeah, don't panic. Bonus stream, ? Yeah, this was kind of a kind of impulsive stream. And I don't expect many people to join, but I just wanted to kind of throw it out there because myself and Gerardo, we were going to stream for about another 45 minutes. So there was a couple things that we kind of finished off on that we didn't really get to cover all the way. And I don't think he'll be able to join this stream per se, but it'll kind of just be me monologuing and soloing some of the things. So yeah, Children of the Grave, 2 bitches for the price of 1. Yeah, exactly. Nagabo definitely approves. So yeah, as far as the bonus stream it goes, me and Gerardo kind of left off on the Reggie Middleton and kind of the clout chasing from even himself to Richard Hart. So there are certain people that you should acknowledge and then certain people that you kind of just ignore. Richard Hart we'll go on myself for just a second. Richard Hart had mentioned many of Reggie's concerns, and he had answered them separately. And then he just wasn't responding to the responses that Richard had made. So it's kind of just like a a sign that Reggie was kind of just trying to clout chase and not necessarily learn about HEX, but instead kind of promote fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which in reality can just be ignored. So that's going to be passed on for now. One thing that Richard Hart talks about is if you got a troll that's maybe got like 10 followers or 100 followers, and you yourself have way more than them, and they're not listening to your arguments or what you're trying to say as far as communicating information, then don't waste your time with them. Richard Hart talks about going on Twitter, and when he's browsing through the feed or just the log, he grits his teeth a lot, and he gets kind of mad when kind of reading some of the things, and that's just a sign that hey, a lot of Twitter is not something that you should be spending a whole bunch of time on, consuming your time and just feeding your brain with that kind of information. So instead, use it as a technology and be able to broadcast your ideas out, as opposed to taking trolls' comments and kind of getting fed up in their feedback loop. So yeah, there's just a couple of things I want to cover. It's not going to be a very long stream. I just want to cover the price of Bitcoin, right? We never talked about the price of Bitcoin when myself and Gerardo were live streaming. And Richard has an S-curve, a parabola, right, of the Bitcoin price, the Bitcoin price versus the dollar. And it's in a parabola, and then you can see when it breaks out of the parabola. So that's one thing I want to talk about. Alex K says, Bran is getting addicted to sharing knowledge. A new Richard Hart in the making. Yeah, I tell you what, it's something that I really like. Even if other people don't necessarily understand why I stream or that this is a passion of mine, I like being able to communicate with all of the Hexicans and all of the potential viewers as well. So shout out to Gerardo for hosting his stream. He had a restream going on, and I saw a few names that I wasn't too familiar with. So it goes to show you we're doing something right. We can always cross promote. Aaron Wisman says, woohoo, monologue is up. Monologue it up. Yeah, exactly. So if anyone missed it, I had a great stream with Gerardo. I guess before we share the screen, we can kind of go over to that. I just finished the thumbnail, which is just a screenshot of myself and himself. When we were doing the video, since he was on Restream in OBS and I was on StreamYard, for whatever reason, we were just having a difficulty broadcasting his camera on StreamYard. But I do want to go over the final thoughts real quick here. So let's stop sharing the screen. Hey, BB Zarba, I appreciate you. It's awesome because I've always liked talking to the camera and just expressing the ideas that I've thought about. But it's more cool to be able to broadcast it to an audience that is willing to listen and to also challenge me on some of the ideas, because even with like the HEX is an altcoin type thing with Brennan, it's cool to hear other people's perspectives and be able to be challenged on things that you might not have been challenged before. Okay, so just real quick. So this is the video with myself and Gerardo is his name, but that's his username. And you can see in the comments, let's see, I should say in the description, right? But you can see that's his Twitter. I don't know why it's not hyperlinked. Maybe because I don't have the HTTPS. Maybe I'll do that in a second. But we got his YouTube, we got his Twitch, and his Twitter. So be sure to follow him real quick just on Twitch, because he does just have like 10 followers. So, make sure to go show another Hexican that has been here since day one some support. So, and then also there's some T-shirts that you can buy off of Amazon. This is one of them, just the buy the dip chart. All right, so let's go back to the chat real quick. Yep, Hex King, hope you're doing well. All right, so let me go back to the screen. We'll just cover just a couple of comments and make it a shorter stream. Okay, so this is Richard Hart's Twitter. Scroll down just a smidge. Like I said, he has a parabola that I'm guessing he drew that Bitcoin has temporarily fallen out of. All right, so bear with me for just a second. So So also, Richard is forking Ethereum. He's hard forking Ethereum. It's going to be a chain that's currently called PulseChain. If you want to, you can go to PulseChain.com. So it's a t.me/PulseChain.com, and you can input information or questions or things like that you feel can benefit the product itself. All right, so if we scroll down just a little bit more, okay, right here. Okay, so we're sharing the screen. Y'all can see. Let me go back. Okay, so Richard says, Bitcoin's amazing run. Bitcoin did 17x in 397 days. What day do you think it fell out of its parabola? Post your best parabola still intact, and this time is different memes. I'll start. So, for the guys and gals watching, it is a very important thing to consider. So, I mean, Richard Hart, he is called the top at least once in 2017. He called the top, I think, in April of the $20,000 top. And so when he mentions that the sentiment in the cryptocurrency community and with the NFTs and the hype and stuff like this, that it's similar to the euphoria that we were experiencing in 2017, it's important to kind of consider that kind of information, even if you think it's not necessarily true. So always just consider that when something like Bitcoin has gone from its previous top of 20,000 to its current, or not its current, but its most recent high of 60,000, well, that's a 3x of the last one. And the market cap itself has multiplied by 2x from its last all-time high. So it's just something to consider, even if you have an opinion and a bias that, oh, it's not the top, it's just a leg down, and then we're going back up for the super cycle or the double top. It's something to consider. Timothy Benjamin, wow, Balliet Brand, another one. Yeah, I just wanted to cover a couple of things that I didn't get to do before the collaboration with Gerardo. And then when Hexologist started streaming, didn't want to impede with his channel. So we hosted his channel very quickly, but there's a couple things I didn't get to cover. Like I said, the gas fees are cheap. So you can go to 1inch.io, you can go to ethhex.com, and it's like $20 or less for a swap. And that's pretty damn good considering the past week or two before, it's been like $80 to $100. So you're saving a significant amount of money by just waiting a little bit longer and taking advantage of this opportunity. Hey, Rusky 99, I appreciate you. Says they cheer 100 bits and they say great streaming, bro. Awesome, thank you. Let me go actually to Twitch and just make sure that we're moderating the channel. Okay, so yeah, Rusky, thank you very much. We got Hex King in the chat as well. All right, let's go back to the screen. Marcavelli, hey, good to see you as well. Brazology says, I wasn't ready for the last stream to end. Hey, me neither, man. I know sometimes streams can be hectic, and especially when you got a family and, wife and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of, stuff around the house being renovated. You never know when you're going to live stream. So shout out to Hexo for streaming daily. The guy's been streaming daily for almost like 2 years. And so I got a couple of t-shirts I'm going to mail to him. But anyways, yeah, just want to cover a few things I never covered in the last stream. So yeah, we got the comment there by Brazology. Hey, hope you're doing well too, man. Hope you're doing real well. BB Zarba, gas fees versus fees 1 year ago. Well, it's tough to compare such a thing, right? It's like my worldview has been updated from a year ago, where a year ago, maybe the fees were 5 cents, 10 cents to transfer or to start a stake or even to end a stake. But they multiplied significantly by the amount of usage that was being done on the Ethereum network. And some of that was arbitrage bots. When I mentioned with Gerardo that Richard talks about miner extracted value. And that was something that these bots, these computer bots would do, where they would compete to raise the gas fees by doing fast versus average, and they would compete to gain the arbitrage from one coin to another because there was one price lower and one price higher. So yeah, the gas fees are definitely higher than a year ago, but if you consider where we've been recently, I mean, I ended a stake the other day that was like $230 to end the stake. Now, if I were to end that stake, maybe it might be 60, something like that. So it's significantly lower currently, and we can kind of go over how to set limit orders on 1inch.io, and even ETHEX.com is pretty cheap, but that's kind of like a market transaction as well. Yeah, BB Zarba makes great points. So they say, imagine people who have ladder stakes coming out weekly. Before we get to the screen, one of the things I want to mention, I've gotten coworkers into Hex by not even instructing them how to get into Hex, but they saw my passion about crypto and Hex, and they wanted to get in themselves. Those people, Hex itself is not something that I would ever not only recommend, but I would just never suggest to people that you stake less than a year, right? Because if you're getting into the product itself, which is Hex, which is similar to, say, like a certificate of deposit, if you have a certificate of deposit that's going to pay you X amount of interest per year, why would you ever stake it, 1 month out of the year? It's something that sometimes people do for just like to make sure it works. But as far as the actual percentage that you're losing out on a lot. And the way that Hex works is it works kind of like a jumbo CD, where every year extra you get 20% up to about 10 years. And so if you stake for 3,641 days, which is about 10 years, then you get 200% on top of your principal, so a 3x. And then if you do 5,555 days, then you get to keep that interest rate as opposed to ending it 5 years prior, which would be 3,641. Hey, don't panic. This is one thing. When I talked to Gerardo, I asked him hey man, are there any issues that you've ever had where maybe you had a staking ladder that was once a week or once a day per month? Are there any things that you've learned? And he mentioned a couple of his things, but the things that I've always talked about on my restaking strategies is I am compiling some of the smaller stakes or even the medium-sized stakes, and I'm compiling them into a 2 stakes per year at most, because I want to maximize my T-shares. So if I'm going 15 years out, well then, hey, I got 2 stakes for those 15 years that are good amount of T-shares, as opposed to spreading yourself too thin. And that's one thing that I've experienced personally with a small amount of Hex, thankfully. But it's something to learn and adapt as you update your worldview. Alex K. Unfortunately, I am one of those. Weekly unstakes, it hurts. Hey, Alex, I know what you mean. Fortunately, I've kind of had a similar amount of smaller stakes. Not all of them, but some of the smaller ones. And fortunately, the gas fees right now are significantly lower than they were, like I mentioned, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, things like that. So it's better to maybe wait, because you have the day that your stake ends, and then you have 14 days after. So you have a whole 2 weeks after your stake ends to be able to end your stake before you start accruing the 1% per week. So yeah, Alex, it's good that people can learn from your decisions and my decisions, a few of them, and be able to learn from others' mistakes and not repeat them yourself. If you can just stake, say, biannually, or even every quarter might be a better strategy than just once a month, right? That's at least 4 times a year as opposed to 12 times a year type of thing. Marcavelli says, Matcha.xyz charges $10 to remove limit orders. Yeah, it's one of those things that it doesn't cost you anything to input the limit order. So if you go to 1inch.io or matcha.xyz, they both kind of route through the same liquidity pools from my experience. But to do the limit order doesn't cost you anything. But yeah, to end it, it does cost you a Ethereum fee. Let's see here. So yeah, I mean, Machiavelli, here's the thing I will say. So as someone that's recently used 1inch.io as opposed to ETHEX.com, the fees on ETHEX.com were like $80, and the fees on 1inch.io were about $30. So that's a significant savings. But even as someone that's paid higher fees with ETHEX.com, it's saved me significantly, even if I've had to pay those cancellation fees. BB Zarba, consider energy for proof of work versus proof of stake Pulse. See, this is something that a lot of people don't consider. Everyone loves to virtue signal that, oh, I'm an environmentalist, or, oh, I love to be clean energy. But then they love Bitcoin, which is wasteful and which is something that's a sacrifice for nothing. And it's a fallacy that the sacrifice is worth value, when in reality, things like Ethereum 2.0 or even HEX or even PulseChain, they're proof of stake and they're less of an impact on the environment. No matter where your stance is in that regard, in that specific topic, you would think that the thing that's more sustainable over time, you would think that would gain more adoption than, say, the thing that's going to, like Bitcoin, the thing that's going to continue consuming resources and just requiring more and more energy, which is just a wasteful proof of work. Rusky99, thanks, by the way, for the previous donation, says, Valiant brand, I have a real issue with the latest Ethereum fork charging so much for the S load. I can't believe the real cost to the network is anywhere close to the fees I see Hexicans posting to Telegram. Rusky, it's a very good point that you mentioned. And Richard has kind of seen this in hindsight coming, right? He's mentioned that, by the way, Flying Alex, thank you for the lemon on DLive. But Richard has always mentioned that Ethereum is the blockchain with the most economic energy aside from Bitcoin. Ethereum is the one that's got it's got a bug bounty program. It's got the most amount of liquidity in whales and whatnot, economic energy, right? So why would you build on something like Tron where you could build on something like Ethereum that has less of a route for the big whales? If you want to onboard those Ethereum whales, then you want to be building on top of Ethereum as opposed to making them jump through multiple hurdles. So to Rusky99's point, it is disgusting to see Vitalik and the other guy that kind of commingled, and they've voted to raise the S-load function. And they actually did something that was kind of good, which was raising the gas limit from like 10 million to 15 million. And I think maybe that, in culmination with just bots not running, I think that's kind of lowered the fees. But it is kind of crazy to see that, oh, you can go from like, decentralized world computer to, just all these different narrative changes. And in reality, they can kind of just vote any time to change that limit that affect people that actually have legitimate smart contracts and legitimate functions. All right, so we'll cover the screen share. Actually, we'll cover it right now before we get into the comments. I can kind of get lost in the comments sometimes. Okay, so this is Richard's tweet. So this is from April 16th. It says, Bitcoin's amazing run. Bitcoin did 17x in 397 days. What day do you think it fell out of its parabola? And so it was at 60,425 then. If we go to the chart right now, Bitcoin versus US dollar on Bitstamp is at 50,725. Now 50,636. So it's definitely significantly lower than when Richard had posted that chart. And it's something to consider. I mean, Richard has called the last top of 2017. I think that was in April 2017. He called the $20,000 top. But he's kind of signaling in this photo, in this parabola, that, hey, post your photos that kind of contradict this. And goes to show you, if we go over here to April 22nd, we can see it's at 51,532. And he says, kind of that it fell out of its parabola. It's about $10,000 lower than the previous one. So that's definitely something to consider. All right, let's go back to the chat. And like I said, guys, this is going to be a shorter stream. This is just some final thoughts, just things that I wanted to wrap up before the other stream ended. Alex K says, if the fee is more than 10% of the total, I just let them chill. But yeah, we're real early enough to make all the mistakes. Alex, it's exactly right. I mean, here's the thing. When the reason I'm kind of at impact of some of the smaller stakes is because the fees were so cheap to start off with. It was like, oh yeah, why not do a 12 stakes per year, once a month, when the fees are a penny. But then they go to $130 something to end the stake, or now it's $16 or $30 to start the stake. So there are things that you have to update your worldview from. And when I mentioned with Gerardo, when we have things like PulseChain coming out, PulseChain.com, you can also go to richardhart.com or t.me/PulseChain.com. When you have things like PulseChain coming out, which we'll know more of at the end of the month, then you've got things that you can go back. You can go back and do the once a month stakes with the cheaper fees from PulseChain.com. And you can go back and do some of the strategies that you couldn't do with necessarily HEX to Ethereum. So it's things to consider. Nozdorov says, last time I explained HEX to someone, they didn't even think and staked their first purchase for 15 years. So I guess a way how you introduce is important. Yeah, Nozdorov, what you show and what you explain is very important. Whenever you're explaining someone something, especially something like HEX, I think it's important to emphasize that the product itself is built for long-term interest accrual. And the product itself is similar to, say, a certificate of deposit where it gives you an annual interest, roughly. I mean, we know that in HEX there's the average, and then that average itself can be diluted or it can be increased based on the weighted average if less people stake or more people stake. But I think it's important on how you actually explain the product to someone. So when I explain it to people, a lot of people in crypto, they're just in crypto to hold it liquid and then do a quick flip, right? Trade it if it makes a 2x or things like that. But HEX itself is kind of more like a 401k, where it is kind of like the retirement coin. And when you see that the maximum you can stake is 5,555 days, well, that's about 15.2 years. And then if you take the maximum of 15.2 years, 5,555 days, and then you take the average, which is like 5 years and 48 days, call it 5.5 years, well, then there's a huge discrepancy between the maximum of stakers and the average of stakers. So if you're anywhere in between the maximum and the average of 5.5 roughly, then you're doing pretty good, and you're actually not being impacted by the inflation, which is 3.69% annually. Hex King, just let it expire. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, and even myself included, right? When you have something that's being bled out or diluted, it could even be like a few $100 stake or $500 stake, and you're letting it dilute or bleed out because you don't think that it's worth redeeming at this time. It can be kind of hard from a psychological standpoint. You think you're taking a loss by being diluted, but in reality, it's just 1% per week. So after 100 weeks, which is almost like 2 years, then you're completely dry. But like Johnny Chaos mentions, if you are even waiting half the time in that 2x's, then you're back to, the 100% or the principal. Crypto Ewok says, I've had orders on Matcha that are getting hit for some reason. Someone said bots that aren't hitting because they aren't making enough of a spread. Let's cover that actually real quick before we go into anything else. So right now, the fees are relatively low. Let me go into 1inch. So app.oneinch.io. We'll share the screen real quick here. Because this is where you can go to matcha.xyz, matcha.xyz, like the fruit.xyz. You can go to that and do limit orders, or you can go to app.oneinch.io, I think, and you can also place limit orders there. Okay, so we're going to go to 1inch, see app.oneinch.io, and you can see it says the most efficient decentralized finance aggregator. So you take whatever address you're starting with, and you can do a market order, which is just say Ethereum to Hex, or you could go to a limit order. And the only other thing about this is when you're going to a limit order, you have to use wrapped Ethereum or the other like ERC20s that it allows right there. But you have to unlock it, which costs a little bit of a fee, and then you can do the limit orders on that pair itself. So if you just do even a market order, and you, one second here. So if you do a market order, you can do a swap token. This is similar to HEX.com, except it's a little bit different in the way that it actually, congregates the liquidity and stuff like that. But so you can go to HEX.com right now or app.oneinch.io and do market orders or limit orders. That's something I wanted to cover real quick. Because I personally have discovered the limit orders and have realized, like, okay, if I'm going to be buying more Hex, I want to buy it at different tiers as opposed to just putting it all on the market right now. And so it's cool that if you buy into someone's sell and you're limit buying versus their limit sell, then you're not paying a whole bunch of slippage and fees. Hex King says, let me scroll down, says, I have 5 orders there. 2 went through and 1 have expired. The one thing that I've learned is if the minimum is like 1 hour and the maximum is like 7 days, which I think is what it is on matcha.xyz, then I'm going to go with the maximum. Because if I'm doing a limit order, who knows, the price might pump or it might dump, and it might take a little bit of time to accumulate and kind of chop through before it reaches the 7-day expiration. So if it costs me, like Marcavelli mentions, if it costs you to cancel it, then you might as well, when you're starting it, you might as well start it at its maximum length of time, which is 7 days. Marcavelli, yeah, I ended just doing ETHEX.com because it was only $20. Exactly, Marcavelli. So that's kind of my point there is ETHEX.com is something I've always preached and something that I've always been a fan of, right? It's like the Uniswap version of Hex, and it goes directly to the Hex pair. So you can go from Ethereum to Hex or USDC to Hex. And honestly, USDC to Hex is a little bit better when it comes to liquidity and less slippage. But he mentions $20. Like, that's not that bad. Dangerous space. What's happening with Bitcoin? Fake out, breakdown? Yeah, let's share the screen and kind of just cover. I mean, Richard Hart, he's kind of just talked about us kind of being toppy with Bitcoin currently. So if you scroll down just a smidge, let's see here, right here. So this one right here, April 22nd, 2021. So that's 3 days from now. Bitcoin just fell out of the curve there. And so this is himself, as you can see in the top right or the top left, Richard Hart on TradingView. He's got a S curve, like a little parabola, and you can see the secondary parabola that it fell out of. I mean, right now we're trading under $50,000. And so yeah, that's kind of what's going on with Bitcoin. I mean, they say fake out, breakdown. Is it a bear trap? Is it a bull trap? No one knows at the end of the day. All you can really do is hedge your bets. So, I mean, I think it's always important for people to be conservative no matter what you're doing. If you're going into a trade, whether you think it's going to $100,000 or $150,000 or $300,000, or you think it's going to go to $30,000 or $20,000, it's important to kind of be able to consider both sides of the narrative, as opposed to just having a significant bias and thinking that you're automatically going to be right. So, I mean, to Dangerous Space's point, I mean, Bitcoin it's 3x'd and it's tripled its last all-time high, which was 20,000 in 2017. And that's 4 years later, less than 4 years later. So it's done a 3x in, less than 4 years. And who knows? I mean, it could be the top or it could just be a leg down. No one really knows. But the important part is that you at least consider what other people have said that have been in the space for a while. So, I mean, it never hurts to hedge your bet, to have a little bit of, USDC or fiat here and there, to have a little bit of things that are going to be a hedge against volatility, like HEX. HEX are perfect for a downturn. They're perfect for a bear market. We've seen it perform tremendously. Machiavelli, yeah, my limit orders should be hit too on Matcha.xyz. Dangerous Space, nothing so nice as APY. In other words, Bitcoin isn't very cool. Exactly. Without further ado, that I think is a good time to maybe do like a 1 minute transition. I've got like a 1 minute intro video of how shares are done. We'll just play the video for about 60 seconds, and then we'll come back for a few more minutes, wrap up on any of the comments, and then answer any questions you guys have. So give me a 60-second break.
The successful among us delay gratification. The successful among us bargain with the future. Realizing any of our financial dreams comes at a cost, a sacrifice made short-term to enjoy a prosperous tomorrow. The cryptocurrency HEX incentivizes you to delay gratification and stick to your goals. HEX monetizes your time. As a time deposit, HEX pays higher interest rates the longer you commit. Longer pays better. Stake your HEX coins for a chosen duration, and once your stake matures, HEX pays you the compounded interest. The autonomous, decentralized HEX smart contract rewards those that complete their chosen time and punishes those that quit with penalties. HEX keeps score. Launched in December 2019 as a finished product, HEX is fully operational today. For a start, take a small amount and check back in a year how HEX is performing. You will be amazed. Any duration between 1 day to 15 years is possible. How long do you want to stake?
All right, everyone, sorry about the pause for just a second. Okay, so next question. Don't panic says, Bran, do you think Pulse will be able to have a front-facing development team like Ethereum does, since it was exempted from prosecution as a security? Does that give Pulse an exemption also? Yes, I believe it does. So the major thing with the security is the Howey test, right? I think it's the 4 legs or something like that. It's the legs of a Howey test. And HEX doesn't compromise any of those legs because it doesn't have any promises, any future work from others. Things like Pulse, Richard has mentioned that Pulse will never be able to be audited before launch because the Ethereum system state is so big. So as far as security goes and things like that, I think Richard is doing quite the great job of not promising anything before launch or not promising anything that these major things will happen or won't happen. It's kind of just a copy of Ethereum with different features. Like, was BNB Binance Chain a security? No. Okay. Well, was EOS? Well, EOS was different, but So the answer, in my opinion, is no. I was thinking of matcha. But yeah, I have several small stakes bleeding out now. Hey, Hexican, you're not the only one. I mean, yeah, for myself that had given a few family members and friends some smaller Hex stakes, they were like $50 at the time. Now they might be worth 150. But if to end them at the time was, say, $60, then it might not be worth it. But now they might actually be worth it because it might be like $20 as opposed to 60. So maybe that's a good time for me to end some of the stakes to my brothers as opposed to getting screwed over in fees, because that's the one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to be paying the middlemen, aka the Ethereum miners, just to end your stake, when in reality, maybe you could be a little bit more patient and just pay less of a fee. Okay, a couple more questions here. Pay Me Hex says, hey, Ballet Brand, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Marco, the Glass Hexican. He's always changing up the name. I like it, Marco. Good to see you, my friend. Hope to see you in Vegas. If not, no worries. Let's prosecute the Fed for being a security. Yeah, there's definitely rules for thee, not for me type thing. But the one thing if nothing else, Richard Hart, he's always playing it secure. And he's always thinking 5 steps ahead and 5 moves ahead. So Richard's definitely thinking of what is the way that I can make this a long-term success as opposed to a short-term solution. So I appreciate you, Richard. Sammy Guns says, hey, man, long time no see. Haven't seen you in a while, Sammy Guns, but hope you're doing well too. Says, it's looking good. Okay. I don't know who this is, but Dennis Rodman just tweeted about Hex. Don't know who that is, but if that's true, cool. Alex K says, I tried both matcha.xyz and pine.finance limit orders. It used to work okay when fees were low, but now bots don't pick them up until the price is a lot lower to pay for both the fees and the profit margin. Maybe 1inch app.oneinch.io works for you a little bit better. Richard has mentioned 1inch.eth.link, but I've honestly never used that URL. So app.oneinch.io was what I used, but the other one itself, haven't perfectly verified that one's 100% legit. Longer pays better. That's the beautiful thing, right? If you're going for 1 year, that's a relatively short time, even if you compare it to the average, right? That's less than 20% of the average. So if longer does pay better, and if you do get 20% more T-shares every single year, and the T-shares are what get you the interest, and the T-shares only go up in value, which, replicates compounding interest, well then, delayed gratification. If I can wait longer and maintain more T-shares for a longer amount of time, more interest, how much interest do you want to earn? How much profit do you want to earn? It all depends on how long you're willing to wait and how many T-shares you want. Oh, that sounds hexy. Fully operational. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover right then and there. Let's cover this again. So yeah, that's the parabola. When we go back to, let's just go back to Richard Hart's Twitter and just see if anything pops out. So first off, I like the way that he changes. So his profile used to say hex.com, 40% APR, 448x, 456 days. But now it just says Richard Hart is forking Ethereum, and then it says the other part. So it goes to show you the priorities there. All right, scroll down just a smidge. This guy is from 3 Arrows Capital. So yeah, I mean, Richard Hart, like I said at the beginning, one thing that he does is he'll comment on other people's channels that he wants to be informed about HEX, about crypto, because in general, there's a lot of shills in the space that just want to, they just want to promote and shill their Bybit link, as opposed to people like Richard that you can't even find an address to donate to. So people like Richard, it's cool to punch above your weight class and comment on other people's Twitters that might be able to recognize that. So yeah, nothing major. Let's see. Richard says right here on April 24th, says proof of waste is actually proof of stake in electric bills and centralized mining hardware, company enrichment, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then he says PulseChain solves this. So yep, that's actually a good point. And at the end of the day, if you're going to have to pay value back in one way or another, as opposed to paying value back in dollars or back in an electricity bill, if you can just have something that's more efficient, like proof of stake, then you can earn more interest and more, maximization. T-shares are uncorrelated from being poor. Well, I tell you what, so we can go to graphics.com, or sorry, graphics.rocks, and we can tell you what the spot price is of a T-share. So right now it's $261. I believe the last week that I streamed, it was about $300. And so that's if you just stake for, say, 1 day or 2 days. But like I mentioned, if you stake for 3,641 days or 5,555 days, then because you're staking for longer, you're going to be rewarded, and you'll cut that cost of 261 US dollars. You'll cut that into a third, or sorry, you'll be able to maximize. Yeah, you'll be able to divide that number by 3 because that's how much you're getting. So let's see, what else is there to go over? All right, let's go back here real quick. So yeah, we're pretty much done. I mean, I've kind of covered everything I wanted to. PulseChain is going to have a lot of information being released at the end of the month. Richard Hart's doing a stream with the ladies of HEX, and that's pretty much it. I mean, go watch the last stream of Richard Hart's if you haven't already. It's like 8 hours long. There's a couple of clips that I've done out of that. Richard Hart kind of talks about the gas fees being cheap. This is just one that Chris Bleck had posted. But I think that's it, everyone. There's just a few more things that I wanted to wrap up, and that was pretty much it. So, thanks again to Gerardo for coming on, to Richard Hart for all you do. The cool thing about Richard is with the actual PulseChain fork, he's not only considering Hexicans, but he's considering Ethereans, right? Every ERC20 token that is on Ethereum. Now, we don't know what the likelihood or possibilities of the fiat forks, like the USDC and stuff like that, or USDT and things like that, ERC20 token to ERC20 token. We don't know what that's going to look like with PulseChain, but we know that Richard's kind of implementing and working on some of the design theory now. So if you have any questions or any comments, things that you want to add, go to t.me/PulseChain.com. Let's see, when's the stream, Richard Hart with the girls? I think it's at the end of the month. I think it's like, you'll have to go on Sammy's channel. Identity Block says it's Friday the 30th. So that's when it's going to be. Yep, wrap up your Willie. Exactly. Yep, Tarnweek, good to see you. And yeah, thanks again to Gerardo for coming on. On his channel, it showed my face and his face at the same time. So go on to his channel in the description below, and you can see both of our faces on his restream. For whatever reason, on my StreamYard, it just didn't work to show both of his channel and my channel at the same time. But that's pretty much it. I don't see any more questions in the comments. Yeah, the Ethereum fees are low. That's the one thing I wanted to mention. you can go to one.eth.link or ethhex.com, and that's pretty much it. Thanks everyone for watching the video, and I'll see you next week. Okay.